What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Nostalgia Podcast. In today's episode, you're going to find me, Irvin, talking about the latest Thor trailer and kind of breaking it down. This is a little bit of a pop-up for me. I wasn't expecting to talk about it. Was not expecting the trailer to drop yesterday, so that's what this is going to be about. Please, guys, if you're new around here, head over to Apple Podcasts, drop that 5-star, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about us. Help us grow this audience. We really love bringing this content out for you guys, and, every review just gives us a little bit more boost to get this out to you. Before we get started, here's a quick clip for you to enjoy.
I'm Miho Nishizumi, and this is Nerd Nostalgia Podcast. And thanks for stopping by. Panzer Vor!
Good morning, Gotham! Just kidding. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, all my nerds. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's your main host today, Irvin, the friendly neighborhood nerd, the nerdy one. What's going on? Thank you so much for joining me today. As I mentioned before in the little intro clip in the preview, we are calling an audible. We are switching up what we're going to do, and so this is kind of an impromptu one. Going to be a quick one. As always, I like to deliver things quick and easy for you guys. So, without further ado, let's talk about Gore the God Butcher. Specifically, the Thor trailer came out last night, right? So, the date today is May 24th. The trailer came out on May 23rd. I don't know, 8 p.m. CST, I believe. I really don't know specifically what time it was, but it came out last night, and finally we got to look at Gore the God Butcher amongst some other things. But today's topic of choice is going to be Gore the God Butcher, who he is, what's going on, what you can expect, and so I'm here to help you out. I'm here to deliver some news and info to you guys. So, that being said, let's jump into it. Alright, so right off the rip, if you didn't recognize who Gore is actually going to be portrayed by, it's none other than Batman himself. I am vengeance. Not Pattinson to all you Gen Zers. Sorry, guy. Sorry, gang. No, it's Christian Bale. Where is he? Where is he? But just on a personal note here, guys, I'm actually Team Batfleck. That's my Batman. That's who I pick because he was both perfect as a Bruce Wayne and a Batman. And he was so comically correct as far as his comic accuracy suit. I loved Batfleck as my Batman. But I digress. Snyderverse stuff, that's all coming, whatever. Let's switch back over to Marvel and specifically to Gore the God Butcher. So as I said, it's being portrayed by I was about to say by Gore the God Butcher, but no, it's being portrayed by Christian Bale from the big movies such as The Dark Knight trilogy. Obviously, we just talked about that. American Psycho, a classic if you've never seen it. The Machinist, another absolutely wonderful movie. Ford versus Ferrari, great, great, great. He was also pretty good in American Hustle. Not one of my favorites. In The Fighter, he was amazing. But he's been in just an epic amount of movies, ranging from sci-fi, fantasy, to even voice acting and some stuff. But yeah, give it a go to the ones that I just mentioned. Oh, Reign of Fire, that's another one of my favorites. All right. Before I go down the Christian Bale rabbit hole here, let's get back to Gore the God Butcher. So being portrayed by Christian Bale. So who is Gore the God Butcher? Well, before that, let's talk about when he debuts. So he debuts in comics, obviously. Most of Marvel is going to be comic related. Gore makes his first appearance in a little book known as Thor, God of Thunder, numero dos. That's number 2 in Espanol and due in Italiano. So for those of you that don't know, he does premiere in Thor, God of Thunder, number 2. It's a series that came out in 2013, and obviously this was published by none other than Marvel Comics, surprise, surprise, but it was created by Jason Aaron and Asad Ribic. It seems like the movie is actually going to be pulling a lot of stuff from this series, and it's a great series. So I believe it debuted somewhere in 2013 and then went until 2014, so just about 2 years. So a pretty solid run for that. Also making the debut in this is going to be a little weapon known as the Necro Sword. So Gore has possession of this. I believe they actually showcase it, and I'm not going to lie, it's a little lame the way it looks in the movie. I didn't think that it's the same sword, and potentially it could not be. But it's the all-black Necro Sword. which, from the comics, according to Galactus, was carved by the first dawn from the Stone of the Endless Night. Basically, this was a blade formed by Knull. If you don't know who Knull is, go ahead and Google that, Knull. But quick little backstory on him. He's essentially the king in black, the god of all symbiotes. So essentially that's what this sword is. How he got it, I don't know. I think something about Clintar species and the head of a slain celestial, something or another. But the abilities that this grants is the blade allows its user to create wings that allow the user to fly at extreme speeds. It's able to create weapons and a shroud of berserkers constructed out of darkness. So essentially he can kind of create these sharp tendrils that can kill any god, including Asgardians. Thor, better watch out. So the blade eventually gets banished into a black hole. Gorr also has possession of something called the God Bomb, which is an anti-divinity armament designed to kill every god who existed or will exist. So it's really, really big stuff. Gorr actually himself possesses superhuman strength, durability, and endurance, and is kind of pretty much immortal. So he's an anti-Asgardian, if you will. He's the opposite of what they are. That being said, let's talk about Gore the God Butcher and who he is, a little bit of history on the character, his biography. So this is coming straight from Wikipedia. Shout out Wikipedia. Go ahead and give us a sponsorship if you guys want. Obviously, y'all are listening. Anyways, Gorr grew up on a nameless barren planet where earthquakes, lack of water, and wild animals are common. No gods helped his people, but they still trusted blindly in their faith. When his mother, mate, and children died, he thought gods could not exist, and because of that, he was outcast by his tribe. Man, that's sad. When he learned gods did exist, but did not help those in need, such as his dying family, he vowed to kill them all. He then acquired All Black, the Necro Sword, from Knull, after witnessing Knull in combat with a golden god. He eventually finds young Thor Odinson on Earth in medieval Iceland. He nearly killed the god of thunder, but a band of Vikings came to assist him in their battle. While Gorr escaped with his arm cut off, he soon learned he needed help. So he created an army of shadow berserkers, then slowly and quietly eliminated more and more gods. Eventually, in present day, Thor noticed the missing gods and investigated their disappearances. This brought Gorr and Thor to another battle, but Gorr then teleported into the future, where in age Thor was the last Asgardian defending the realm against shadow berserkers. And I'm going to stop there because I don't want to reveal any more of the plot. But that's kind of the backstory. So it's Gorr going on this vengeance quest, avenging his family, avenging Avengers, Marvel, boom, you're welcome. So that's what's going on. So he's on a quest to avenge his family, which I get it, man. Mess with my family, and that's a big deal. But it's one of those things where we're going to find out that gods really aren't gods. They're just these superhuman type folk. They're not really gods. They're just immortal or very long-lived kind of beings. So I think salty Gorr is definitely salty and is going on a little vengeance path. We've talked about the Necro Sword and that playing a big part. The interesting part of that, and I mentioned this before, is Knull. Knull is, again, the king in black, the god of symbiotes. And so I'm curious if they're going to end up tying this and if that's going to be what the big bad is in the Sonyverse. They could easily tie it into that. Likely not going to be in the MCU, but who knows? It definitely seems like they're not going to go with the King in Black route, even though that just came out. It definitely seems like Marvel specifically is going to go with the 2015 Hickman storyline of Secret Wars, heading in kind of that Doom being the big bad, perhaps, or maybe Doom is going to be the one that's like in the story, creating a device to prevent a bigger catastrophe from happening. And I'm not going to mention what it is because #no spoilers, y'all. But who really knows what Feige has in store for us? But yeah. So we've talked about Gore the God Butcher. We know his backstory. It's all here about vengeance and avenging his family. There's different types of gods that we've been introduced to lately, and I'm wondering if he's going to come after all of them or if he's going to be mentioning them. Like, think about it. Recently, we found out that the Egyptian gods exist. We found out that Khonshu and his other pals exist, so we have them. We already knew that the Black Panther god, or rather the goddess, Bast. So Blast is the Panther goddess who led the creation of the Black Panther. Then you have a couple other ones from that kind of timeline, the African gods, I guess we could dub them. You have Koku, the god of war, Mujaji, the god of hunger, Thoth, the god of light and reason, and Pthath, the Shaper, the god of metal alloys, mainly vibranium. But that's a deeper cut. All we know is Bast specifically, right? And I believe there is some type of relation to one of the Egyptian gods, possibly Khonshu. They could be like cousins or something like that. I don't really know how all of that works, to be honest with you. And then we switch over to the Olympians. Everybody's known Olympians. Everybody's read the Iliad and the Odyssey. Obviously, we're very familiar with them. They're the new addition from this storyline, from this Thor God of Thunder storyline, or this Thor Love and Thunder specifically. So the one that kind of is going under the radar is what I keep referring to as the Ice Dragon, which there's the scene, and they've posted it in the movie. It's directly recreated from the comics. It was the ones that I just mentioned before, drawn and written by Jason Aaron and Asad Ribic. So this is Thor speaking from that. I had to go and find this, but Falagar, the Behemoth, a patron god of the galactic frontier, champion of the Tournament of Immortals for 5 centuries straight. They say he wrestled black holes for fun. So this was in Thor, God of Thunder, and it's an absolutely beautiful scene. It's this big behemoth of an ice dragon, as I'm going to refer to it, because I want you to have that visualization. Go back into the trailer and take a look at it. This is a direct, not a rip, but a direct interpretation from the comics, because it's such a beautifully shot one, and it just creates that sense of urgency when you see this behemoth dead. But that is awesome. I really do love when producers, writers, directors are inspired by the comic specifically, because it's already been written, guys. How DC messes up so much is, I think they go too far off the wire. That's what is making my reservations about the Flash movie, the upcoming Flash movie, on high alert. I think it supposedly is going to do good. It had really good feedback, but I don't know. I just really don't know. But anyways, it's interesting. There's several different gods, and I don't think these are even the only ones. We've also been introduced to Ego, the god planet, or whatever it is, right? We have Celestials. We have the Eternals, which are kind of like gods, but not really. And then they have their guy that they report to. We've had a lot of introductions to things, so it'll be interesting to see more and more of these and how that changes the playing fields for all of our superheroes. Is it going to be a immortal versus mortal type of situation? Who knows? Who knows? Kevin Feige, let us know. I don't know why I switched into that accent, but I did. And switching gears a little bit back to Thor, but not Thor. The Thor we know is kind of capping off with Jane Foster here. We've confirmed a few things from this trailer. Number one, she pretty much assures us she's not a variant, right? She has historical knowledge of her and, our Thor Odin's son. And so it's like, okay, this isn't a variant. Okay, that's cool. Based off of what she said, hey, how long has it been? Like 3 years or so? And he was like, 8 years, 7 months, blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is. I don't remember specifically what it was. I think it was, what did he say? It was like 8 years, 7 months, and 6 days, give or take. It's like, who's counting? Typical Thor. But yeah, we know that she's not a variant, and because of what that time frame that he said, was she blipped? She very easily could have been blipped during that time frame without us knowing, and would explain a lot of different things, her absence and such. Then we also know that she is freaking jacked, son. Good grief. Natalie Portman, good for you hitting them weights, girl. I love a girl that lifts, that has a little bit of muscle on her, a little bit of bootay, if you will, as well. Good grief. She's looking fine. Looking fine, gentlemen and gals that are into it. But yeah, so we think, she's not a variant, and that she also potentially could have been blipped. Speaking of being jacked, Hemsworth, good grief, Charlie Brown. Wow. From dad bod to god bod, that man is absolutely shredded. Good on his wife, who also is super attractive. If you've never Googled her, go ahead and do a quick Google search for Chris Hemsworth's wife. You'll recognize her from different movies. The one most recently was in the Fast and Furious, like number 6 or 7, rough abouts. I think she was in that. She was Dom's love interest while they had killed off Letty, or not really killed her off. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movies. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about Gorr. We've talked about the trailer. We've talked about Thor and Lady Thor. I don't know if that's what they're going to call her. I don't think that's what they call her. Lady Jane Foster. She eventually becomes a Valkyrie. Anyways, maybe that happens in this storyline. I doubt it. But back to what we're saying. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've talked about Gore the God Butcher and his vengeful path, why he's on this path. He's here to kill all the gods, including our most favorite Australian one, or rather, our most favorite Asgardian one, Thor, Odin's son. I'm curious to see if Loki's going to make a guest appearance in this. I hope that at the very end of it, Loki comes out of the portal of some kind and is like, Thor, I need your help, brother. And then you just see Thor just absolutely breaking down and crying. I also am hoping that this is not Chris Hemsworth's swan song movie. I'm getting some of those vibes. I want to keep seeing him. I think Thor has an elongated kind of timeline that could go. You know, we have King Thor and his antics while Jane Foster Thor is doing her thing. So I think that that's what they're going to do. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. As always, head over to Apple Podcasts, drop that 5-star, tell your friends, family, and coworkers. We're on Spotify, we're on Pandora, we're on Google, we're everywhere, baby. Make sure that you follow and subscribe everywhere. Head over to our YouTube page, give us a subscription there as well. You could listen to the podcast, that way you can just click on it at work. We're also on a new app called Whatnot. If you're not familiar with this, Whatnot is actually a collectible selling app. So your boy is definitely into the comic books if you weren't aware, but there's more different collectibles on there. There's Funko Pops, there's Pokemon cards, there's sports cards. It's a whole array of things. And there's pretty much 24/7 you can buy collectibles, and it's live auctions. So I'm actually doing my first show this Thursday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you already haven't followed me on there, it's nerd_nostalgia. Go ahead and give your boy a follow there and help me, and buy some stuff. Help out the podcast here. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful day, night, whatever time it is. We'll catch you on the next episode. And remember, stay nerdy, my friends. That's a terrible catchphrase.